14-year-old Cody Manders took down the bear with his bow and arrow. Ever since he was a young boy, this Whitmer High School student has had a passion for the outdoors. Earlier this week, Cody sat down with Joe Redneck to talk about the hunt of a lifetime. How did you get into all this?
Well, it started, seeing my dad going out deer hunting, come back with the deer, or you go out duck hunting, and you come back in the morning with a bunch of ducks and geese, and I decided, it looked pretty fun, I want to go, and so I asked him, and he took me out. I think the first thing that he took me to do was probably spring walleye jigging out on Lake Erie.
How old were you then?
I don't even know. I was so little I probably didn't even know how to talk yet. And
so you go walleye fishing. How'd that go?
Yeah, right now I'm ready for it. It's the season's coming. I'm ready to go out there and get some, but it's probably one of my most favorite things to do right now.
So your dad started taking you on all these adventures when you were a little kid, and did you just fall in love with it right away?
Yeah, I as soon as he took me out there and I started seeing what's going on, it's like, I'm sitting there with my little plastic toy gun and sitting there, I'm like, thinking I'm ready to do this, and so I pretty much fell in love with it at first sight.
And then as you got older, when did you actually first go on a real hunt? Because you're on a real hunt, you're really fishing, but you mentioned your toy gun, you probably had your little Snoopy rod and reel, everybody had one of those.
Yeah, my first real hunt was, I think, I was 11. It was the first year I got my, I took my Safe Hunters course, and it was the first deer season after that, so my dad got a crossbow from a friend of his, and so we went out, shot it, made sure I was all, it was sighted in and everything, I could shoot it, and we went out and sat in the ground blind. We saw a deer, but I never got any shots, so I didn't get any my first year, but my second year, I started hunting with a bow. I had a Fred Bear compound bow, and we went out this tree stand my dad put up, and everybody said we weren't going to see nothing, it was going to be a bad spot. It was a big oak tree, probably probably 2 foot in diameter, and we put the tree stand up and figured out that he could just stand on the limb right next to the tree stand. So we went there opening season, second year that I hunted, and got him from the tree stand. Probably hour and a half went by, and the doe comes up, and I take my first shot at that. I shot over her back. I was kind of disappointed, so we just waited, and the farmer told us there was a deer that was coming out on top of the hill that's in front of the tree stand. So we were waiting, and all the corn was still up. So the deer comes out, and it's coming through the corn. But we're sitting there, we're watching it, and then all of a sudden my dad just looks down, and there's a button buck standing there, and he's like, get your bow, get your bow. And we're talking through this whole thing, and the deer's just standing there, eating some grass, standing there, eating. I pulled my bow back, and he was like, just put it right behind its leg and let go. And so I did it, and I ended up hitting it right in the neck right here, and it pretty much went down right there.
11 years old, and the rest is history, so to speak. Let's talk about your black bear. Yeah. Your big 250 to 300 pound black bear. How did that happen, and when was this?
Well, my dad has a friend that helps the guide up in Canada, and finally my dad said, I think I'd like to go, and I personally didn't know we were actually going until, probably a month before.
What did your mom say?
She did not want us to go.
You're supposed not.
She was like, he's going to get eaten by a bear. We got there a day early, and so we just kind of sat around, got familiar with what we were going to do. The guy told us all about how we were hunting, and the next day we wake up, the guy goes out and sets bait. So we just kind of stayed at the cabin, and then he comes back and he says, well, get ready, boys. And so we all, get our hunting stuff on. And
how nervous were you?
I wasn't nervous till he came back and said, get ready, because I was like, oh, God. And I got ready, and I look over, and I see this big black thing coming down a tree. I'm like, oh, what's that? It looks pretty fuzzy. And I see its face, I'm like, oh, that's a bear. And then I started to get nervous, started getting the shakes, and got my bow. I'm like, oh, God.
Where was your dad?
He was off at his spot. And I'm like, sitting there, I'm like, oh, man, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? And then the bear comes up to take some bait.
So you're in this tree. Let me get this straight. You're in the tree. Yeah. The bear's down on the ground, but you got some bait in here. Yeah. So he's looking up the tree trying to grab the bait.
Yeah.
And here you are going,
I'm still shaking, but I pulled back and I was still a little bit shaky, but I got to where I thought I was steady enough, and I let go, but it hit it. There's like a paddle bone that sticks off their shoulder like that. I hit that, so it didn't, just kind of.
So that just ticked the bear off?
Yeah, it just made it mad. It ran off, so I'm like, all right. And then I'm sitting there, I'm still shaking because I'm freaking out because there's a bear running around somewhere out there with an arrow in it, probably pissed off at me. I'm sitting there and I see something walking across it. I'm thinking it's the same bear, but all of a sudden it comes down and it's at the bait, and I pulled back, got steady, waited a minute, and then I was like, all right, this is it. I let go, and I saw where it hit, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good for being on. Yeah, I went probably 20 yards and died there.
Were you just euphoria, or were you like, man, I did it, or were you like, oh, thankfully the bear didn't get me?
I was still shaking, standing there. I'm like, oh my God, I shot it. And standing there and put my bow up, and I'm like sitting there, and it's getting dark. I called the guide on my cell phone. I'm like, you're gonna have to come get me. He was like, why? I was like, oh, I just shot one. And
you're at Whitmer High School. Do you graduate in May, or do you have another year?
I graduate next year. So.
Okay. So what do you plan to do after graduation?
I'm in the welding program right now. So far, I've been working with my dad at his machine shop, welding there and doing some other stuff on the side. So I'm probably gonna work there for a while, see what happens there.
Well, Cody, best of luck. I appreciate you coming in tonight. You could quite the stories to tell us, but these are true.
They're all true.
Yeah, that bear.